Hello everyone and welcome back. My name is Jason Levine and thank you so much for joining me here on Adobe Live for Friday's video masterclass today, which is a part 2 working with 360 VR footage in Premiere Pro. And we're even going to dip into a little bit of After Effects later today to show you just a couple of things there. So as always, we're coming to you live on behance.net/Adobe Live. That is where the chat is happening. So if you're following along on Twitter, Periscope, or on my YouTube channel, if you want to be part of the live conversation, please join us over at behance.net/Adobe Live. And we've got a bunch of stuff to cover, hopefully end a little bit early so I can go through some of the daily creative challenge submissions. Now, I wouldn't normally mention this here, but today was the last day of the challenge, day 5. So we've had a full week of video daily creative challenges and the submissions have been awesome. Just wanted to pull up that if you haven't already registered or maybe you just haven't had time, didn't even know it was happening this week, here's where you need to go. And as I mentioned on the DCC earlier this morning, even though today's the last day, you can still submit challenges. You can still submit your work, and everyone in the Discord will be able to answer and respond and give feedback, and it's awesome. And that's bit.ly/PR Discord. But where you want to go for the challenge, behance.net/challenge/premiere. And in fact, right here, when you do the join the community chat, this will give you the link to sign up for the Discord Premiere server if you're not already a part of that. And here's where you can download again all of the various files and things that we used. I even created a specific tutorial playlist for this week's DCC called Toots in Under 5. It keeps making me laugh every time I see it. And so if you go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Jason Levine video, you can see that each one of these, they're super short, all right? The multicam sync one is the longest, it's 5:05. But all of them are under 2 or 3 minutes. And it's just specifically about what the sort of topic was for that day, for that challenge, okay? But it's just the workflow of doing just that one thing. So really specific, in and out, show you what to do, and then you can start playing around with footage, all right? Sweet. So who have we got in here today? What's up, Robzilla? Great to see you, man. Wade Acuff, JD, good to see you again. Uma Korn, great to see you too. Flavio, Casimano, Adil, Mayan Gabriel, hola. Ibrahim, great to see you. Cal. All right, Steve, Reverb Mike, welcome back. Wade Acuff, Jason Hess, what's up? And we've got Desiree and Good Vibes Only 2020. It's your first day on Periscope. Welcome. Welcome to the stream. Jay Hunt, Luba Jacobo. All right. And we've got Bill and We Enjoy over on my channel as well. So nice to see you all. All right, so let's go ahead and dive right into Premiere and kind of pick up where we left off. Now, one of the things that I talked about briefly last week, and this is something which still comes up less frequently now because I think more cameras are doing it internally because of the issues with the sort of V1 of VR cameras and footage, is that Premiere Pro nor After Effects, we do not do the stitching. So when you shoot 360 VR, and what you're looking at on my screen here, let me make this full screen for a second. So I mentioned I have the V1, super old now, version 1 of the Samsung Gear 360 camera. It's 4K. You can see even just by this image, I mean, it shoots really, the glass is quite lovely. It shoots really, really nice, clean 4K images, static and moving, I mean. But this is what the raw, unprocessed media looks like. So what happens is, now in the case of that Samsung, and this is a couple years already, so I think they have a new app or they do something else to stitch it together. But once you shoot that, and this is what it looks like, and I can just play this for you, okay? So obviously we're seeing sort of like the front and the back view of the camera, but then all around. This is the raw, this is what it looks like raw. So then you use a separate application, and in their case, when I did it, it was something called Action Director, which was only supported on the PC at the time, so I had to pull out my old Windows machine. And it takes those two spherical looking things and creates this equirectangular frame, which is what Premiere wants to use to be able to actually create proper 360 VR video, okay? So equirectangular is the conversion to format. It goes from this kind of dual cylindrical look, and we're going to talk a bit about some of these other options and doing conversions, because this is something that you actually can do in After Effects, like this, and then turning it into that equirectangular video, which is what you want, okay? Which, if we were to, this one on the right here, if I turn this off, now this is stereoscopic, but this is kind of showing you an over-under equirectangular stereoscopic frame. Now, if you don't have the stitching software, or if you don't stitch it, Premiere actually still lets you work with this content in VR. So let me just kind of show you here real quickly. If I were to take this on, now I don't recommend this, but I just want to show this to you because people ask it all the time. It's like, well, it can sort of work. We're just going to give it a try. So we're going to create a new sequence from the clip, all right? And then by default, it comes in looking like this. Now, this is obviously not what we want. Now, as I mentioned, if you go up to the sequence settings under the sequence menu here, in this case, you can see that it actually is already detecting this as VR content. Equirectangular, it is in fact monoscopic. Okay, so when we go into our VR viewer, it sort of works. Again, now it doesn't have the actual stitch. So what happens is you're going to get these weird, you know, not only holes, which you would get anyway, like here's the tripod that I'm using, right? But you're getting kind of the edges of the circle because there is no stitching implemented here. So we'll still let you kind of mess around with it. You could theoretically export this, but it's just not going to look very good, right? It's not going to look right. And just to kind of put it in perspective here, and let me see if I can pull up the this is 360022. See if I can get into the stitched one of this. Here we go. Okay, so here's the stitch of the same footage. All right, let's place this in a new clip. Okay, and right away, I mean, it's just, right, there's the difference now. So while there are, in fact, stitched seams, and you can actually see it right there. There's the seam, all right? So this is a byproduct of stitching. You're going to get this, you know, and again, this is already 3 or 4 years old, so I imagine it's better on some cameras and some softwares than others. You got a slight little stitch there, but, I mean, overall, it looks pretty sweet, right? And here I am in full 360 in Amsterdam, okay? Versus this, where, you know, you very clearly, it's just taking two raw side-by-side cylindrical, you know, circular pieces of basically two 180s and just kind of putting them together in a circle, you know, in a spherical way. So that's what you're going to get if you don't stitch it properly. So I'm just pointing this out because this is something that people ask a lot. We don't do the stitching. There's lots of third-party, there's specific softwares out there that will just do stitching. Even the conversions, though, you're converting from the already stitched formats. So like in the case of the native effects and After Effects for conversion, you would go from something like this equirectangular frame, right? Again, versus this, right? So this is not stitched together. This is stitched together. That's because this is creating specifically an equirectangular output. You can convert it into a cube map, into a dome map. There's all these other formats, specific ones for Facebook that they want for their VR. You can do this on the After Effects side, and we'll get to that in a couple minutes. Okay. Now, I wanted to also get into today, talk a little bit more about stereoscopic. So I don't think I was able to show an example. I've got a couple examples here to show you too, in fact, but also wanted to point out that while we support 360 VR, we also support VR 180. Now, this was something that kind of hit, I want to say, about 2 years ago. I think it had been out before that, but shortly after VR 360, there came VR 180. As you might imagine, it's the same kind of thing, except it's, you know, if we're talking about planes here, it's this hemisphere, not the other hemisphere, right? So, and this is actually from this was shot on a Zcam 6K. It's stereoscopic, which is why you're seeing side by side. So once again, if I were to go into my sequence settings here on this particular footage, okay, once again, I spat out an equirectangular frame. and you can see it auto detects that it's stereoscopic side by side. So when you go into the VR viewer here, again, if you want to enable that immersive stereoscopic 3D view, we're going to go into VR video here and go into settings, right? And this is where now we are currently reviewing just the left eye. Again, we can switch to the right eye, or we can go into anaglyph mode, right? And this is where, again, if you've ever done stuff in 3D, you know, if you put on your red and blue glasses, now you're actually viewing and visualizing this in stereo, okay? And again, I can scrub through. This is pretty heavy 6K footage here. So even at half res, I'm, you know, it's chugging along. Now, one of the things that you can do once you've got your stereoscopic media in here is that you can adjust and manipulate the stereo, both in real time and to even like fix the stereo orientation. So we're going to go back to our effects panel here, type in VR, and last time around we were talking about rotate sphere. So this is how we change the orientation point, the starting point of your VR. Well, we also have VR projection. So if you go into VR projection, go into our effects controls. All right. So again, you'll see that you have options here: stretch to fill the frame, auto import the VR properties, same with the output, filtering, and then disparity adjustment. So this allows you to dynamically adjust the left eye, right eye settings, and probably I would have wanted something probably a little bit closer to that. Rather, grab it. This, yeah, something like that. Just a change of like 1. And again, if I'm wearing the glasses, I'll be able to see how this looks, and I can play this back. I probably have to go into like 1/8 res here to play this back. I've got some. It's funny. I did an ambisonic audio soundtrack with my Zoom H1 that day, and there was absolutely nothing. There was nothing going on whatsoever. No birds, no nothing. So again, this is at 1/8 res playback, so not exactly impressive here. But if I wanted to make adjustments to the stereo there, I can do that. Okay, so that's VR 180. Not many of you probably going to be shooting VR 180. I've seen virtually nothing about it in the last year and a half. I don't even know if anyone's still using it as a format. It still exists, but it's just a matter of is anyone really using it? Now this one here, this again. Now this is this was shot also a couple of years ago. Let's go into the properties of this. So this is some stereoscopic 2K footage. I'm forgetting what camera this was shot on. Stereoscopic over under. So we've seen side by side and over under, right? Go into our viewer here. And this one, what's particularly cool about this, again, just kind of being, first of all, full 360 stereo, is the views. I mean, it's really dramatic.
And then down below is
all right, and this is from a documentary. This guy who does he does, you know, mountain climbing, but with no ropes, no nothing. He just like goes for it. All danger, you know, pretty intense.
Amazing spires.
But like here's like some drone content.
I think the
so
reason
that was like moving drone content in 360. So again, this is where you might use some of that projection to readjust some of the stereo or maybe make changes. This also has an ambisonic soundtrack, and currently we're previewing this via the binauralizer. So remember, this was something we were talking about last week, that when you're making your sequence, if it's going to have an ambisonic spatial soundtrack as opposed to just a stereo soundtrack, you have to make sure that whether you use one of the pre-created presets that I showed you or you build your own, that for the type of ambisonics that Premiere wants, you want to have a 4-channel master fader. So you can see here, we've got our 4 channels of audio, and then we're monitoring to be able to hear the binaural audio or the encoded ambisonic soundtrack. That's what we're using the binauralizer for. And you'll find that under the special menu here under your effects, okay? Now remember, when you go to export, you want to remove that. Very important. So the binauralizer is just for previewing, okay? Pointing that out again. But that's going to let you hear everything kind of in context of that 360 space. Additionally, if you have either ambisonic audio or even stereo audio or mono audio, and you want to manipulate it in the spatial atmosphere, you want to be sure that you place it onto an adaptive track. So you can see that this sequence has one adaptive track, and then these are all stereo tracks. If you want to be able to manipulate things in 360 360 degrees, you need to place your audio on an adaptive track, and then you're going to use the ambisonic panner. And I'm just reviewing this because we kind of went through this a little bit quickly last time, and these are some important things to note here. So you're going to place the ambisonic panner on that. And then there's three simple parameters here: pan, tilt, and roll. And it's going to allow you to kind of adjust, again, the direction like this, the direction like this, and the direction like this. Okay? Very fun to play around with, you know, if you're like me and very susceptible to headaches and extreme nausea. I don't necessarily recommend it all the time, but that's entirely up to you. Now, one of the other things that I didn't get to talk about the last time, and I'm looking in here for some, let's see what kind of years we have, comments. Cal is saying, of course, in a few more years, we'll need a stream on how to create that bad stitching effect. No doubt, right? Today, we're so used to like how to make it perfect or how to remove that. There's always a hole in the middle. You're absolutely right, Cal, that probably sooner than that, it'll be like, how do we make the 360 look all poorly stitched and, you know, mashed together? All right. In Amsterdam, that might look normal. Ah, Steve, you kid. Isis Allegra, what's up? Jared Phillips, how you doing? Okay. Sweet. All right. So I showed you, and we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the different effects in here specifically in just a second. But I wanted to also mention about grading. Someone asked me in the Discord, off topic, how do we grade 360 footage in Premiere? And here's the cool thing. You grade it exactly as you grade non-360 footage with Lumetri Color. So you don't have to enter any special mode. So unlike where I was talking about some of the transitions and things that were specifically designed for 360 immersive video, right? So that it affects all parts of the frame, all pixels. In terms of color grading, it works exactly the same as if you're just in standard 2D flat monoscopic non-stereo, you know, works exactly the same. So in the case of, I mean, this footage is already pretty beautiful and graded, but let's say that we wanted to give this, you know, a particular look or just change certain elements to it. Again, with that clip selected in my timeline here, pulling up my Lumetri Color panel, we want to warm things up. We can warm them up, all right? And this footage being, this wasn't, I wish I could remember which camera it was. Super high-end camera. And this is, we're working, I think, off of a ProRes proxy, but it's pretty darn sweet. Hold on, I'm gonna go back into my just single eye view. All right. And here for this, we're actually gonna let's do 180 by 90 for a second. Just gonna make this a little bit wider here. So again, all the things that you have available to you that you would normally do, you can do here. So if we wanted to, again, sort of bring down the highlights to bring back a little more detail in the clouds right there. You know, before, after, so very dramatic. All right, maybe adjust the black level ever so slightly. Okay, I'm gonna crush those down a little. Also, of course, you know, as is somewhat the nature of 360 immersive content, as sharp as it is, you know, there's always a slight, especially around the edges as you're rotating, you get a slight amount of softness. But as you can see, though, you know, this footage is beautifully sharp and in focus, but don't think that that's a display issue. That's just kind of the nature. If you've never really messed around with a lot of 360, that's just kind of how it looks, you know. And again, you're seeing some of the some of the stitching going on up there, but overall it's pretty impressive how good this looks. Similarly, of course, we can use LUTs. So if there's a particular display LUT here, ooh, that's kind of nice and dramatic. Ooh, that's nice too, slightly more film-like. Actually really like that. Again, if we wanted to add a slightly more faded film style aesthetic, maybe sharpen it a little. Be very careful with sharpen. Maybe add additional vibrance. Maybe adjust the intensity here a little bit. We can always before and after. Pretty dramatic change. But again, now we've affected this whole frame real easily. And if we wanted to, we could simply right-click, control-click, copy, move over to this shot over here, or let's do both of them while we're at it. We get both of these clips. So I'm going to select the two right here. Paste attributes. And I'm not going to do the offset here. Let's just do the lumetri color. I'm not going to adjust opacity either. Paste on both of those, and now you can see it's brought in that same exact same effect as we had it there. So again, there's the before, there's the after. Oh, I really like that. That actually turned out pretty nice. Stylized for sure. Changed the whole mood, changed the whole vibe, but I'm liking it. It actually gives a lot of depth and dimension. Oh look, so there's their center rig. You can see like the audio device here capturing the ambisonics. There's the microphone. There's the windscreen at this weird part of the stitch there. Okay.
There's the witch. Behind it is the...
Pretty slick. Okay. So grading your 360 content, no change from working with regular non-360 VR content. Super important. Super easy. Again, you can build presets. You can copy paste the attributes. It works just like everything you already know. Okay. Sweet. Okay. And the same goes for VR 180. You know, not that there's much to showcase here. Again, this was like the one day where absolutely nothing was happening. Nothing. So I kind of failed on that one. Okay. Let's see. Checking some questions here. Daniel, what's up? Film and VFX. Jim Sale. Dan Cuts Film. How are you? Luga, nice to see you. Okay. All right. So let's now talk a little bit about some of the other effects. Because we didn't really get to show too many of those. We'll go back to Venice maybe for this one. Okay. So again, when you're working in 360 now, so here's our Venice 6K footage. Now you want to talk about sharp. This stuff is just like really beautiful. And I don't know, is there any, I don't think there's any, this has not been color corrected. So this was like right out of the camera. So it's pretty beautiful stuff here. All right. Again, there's the center right there. They did a pretty good job. Whatever they did with this, it looks really good. Okay. So we have this whole series of VR effects, which can be used for sort of transitional elements or just literally as sort of like effects processes. So in the case of maybe transitioning from one shot to another, maybe we could use something like the digital glitch. And I'm just showing these off because you probably wouldn't just stumble upon them. And they're kind of fun, kind of cool, kind of modern and timely. I happen to like this one because you see it a lot, especially if you ever watch a lot of gameplay videos. People use this as a transition style, but it can be cool for a number of things. So if we just go ahead and grab the VR digital glitch, drag it onto here, go into our effects controls. So right away you see that it gives you that, you know, glitchy, pixelated things falling apart kind of look. Super cool. Maybe it's not super cool. Maybe you despise that. I still like it, you know. I still think it's pretty neat. And it's really easy to use. So, of course, you can start with something like this. And then basically your control for the amount of glitch, your master control is right here under master amplitude. Okay. So you can see, and then you have separate drop downs, so many options here for distortion, right? Color distortion, geometry distortion across X, Y, and Z, distortion complexity. I mean, you've got a lot. Then additional transform settings for the distortion elements. sub settings. I'm not even sure what sub influence and subscaling is. And then separate settings for the noise. And then we have this random seed thing here. So again, this will kind of give it an even more glitchy, you know, momentary kind of look to it. You can get really specific with this. If we wanted to use this as like a simple like transitional element or something, maybe we started at the beginning here. So we could set a keyframe on the master amplitude here, all right, and then maybe we just go in like 2 seconds and drop it down, right? And then while I'm at it here, I'm going to add a little. What are the light rays? What do those look like? Let's see. Oh yeah, that's not bad. Again, some of these transitions, you know, where you wouldn't use them on more classic video, in 360 you can kind of get away with it. All right. Now note, I'm working here I'm not working in the VR viewer. This is kind of a way for you to really see across all parts of the frame how the transitions are interacting and how those effects are working. So if I play this back, I think we can probably, let's see if I can get this in. I may want to render this, but I'm gonna try this in half quality, see if I can play this back. Again, this is 6K, but we'll see. Okay, yeah, not bad. So you can see as it transitions through it. I love how like we have this digital glitchy bird. That's actually really neat. So you see the bird up here in the frame? This looks like bird pieces, right? So, you know, it transitions. It's all glitchy. And then now the bird is back into its regular self. So again, you can use these in any number of ways, just kind of showing you how that looks. And if we go back into the viewer here, it's obviously it's a different experience because again, we're sort of moving through the frame here with the transition and with all these other elements. So however you prefer to edit in here, that's entirely up to you. Now similarly, again, we can go back, let's get out of the viewer and let's do something like the random seed. So I'm going to set a random seed keyframe on here as well. All right, just to make it even more glitchy. That's like too much random seeding. Let's do 10 or 12. There you go. Can't make up his mind. And then we'll come over here. All right. Just gonna take that transition out of there because it's slowing everything down. And let's play this back. And you can see the random seed just adds slightly blockier movement. It actually looks less smooth now. I don't even like that. So that's, you know, that's the benefit of trying these things out and go, nope, that sucks. Let's get that out of there. Let's just watch this. Much better. I like that. And it really comes together very smoothly. If you're kind of looking, like look at this post right here. It's nice. And again, I'm looking at the bird. Comes through really nicely. Okay? So, real simple implementation with some effects right there. Cool. Okay. A lot of people in here. Everyone's being very quiet. You're just glancing. You're just watching. Okay, no worries. Okay, so we've done, last time we did sharpen, rotate, sphere. We just did projection, plane to sphere. That's how we add in text, right? So remember, again, here in our little canal shot, right? Somewhere, oh, there it is. We've got our Venice in the summertime text, Mogert, right, that we placed in the scene. And if we were to look at the effects controls there, again, we are using plane to sphere. So plane to sphere is used if you want to integrate 2D objects, 2D video. You know, you could have video playing in this window frame right here, but you can't just stick it in a 360 timeline. You need to orient it in 360 space. So that's what plane to sphere does. So you'll see, like when I turn this off, that graphic is going to get a little bit skewed, It also changes shape, right? So that's because it doesn't know, it's bending it because it's placing it in this spherical environment because it doesn't know what to do with this. If we turn this back on, now it's properly oriented and it fits and it sits where it's supposed to, right? And as I said, if we wanted it to stay static or to move along or track along, there's other things we can do with that naturally. I just have it sitting there static, but you get the idea. And then that'll maintain its relative position and orientation as we move through the frame, which is what's really cool about that, okay? So integrating things like that. Nice. Okay. All right, so we've got about 25 minutes. I want to show some submissions at the end. We got to go to After Effects. Let's talk about exporting before we get to After Effects and talk about conversion, okay? So again, whether you have standard 360 with a stereo soundtrack like the one that I have here. This is me driving in my car. Well, we'll find out. Sound on this. There's the boulders right there, so I think we're sort of on the right path. The right path, the path to righteousness. I don't know what I'm saying there. This must be a while ago. I have no gray hair. I have like a strand. Constantly amazed. By the way, people asked me, someone asked me the other day, like, how come you're using so much footage of yourself? Well, because I can distribute it and not get in trouble for it. That's why. Gets challenging when you want to use footage of others, but if it's you, you know, I can decide if I want to show me. I can't embarrass myself. I mean, I can, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so whether it's 360 VR with a stereo soundtrack, but monoscopic video, or 360 VR video that is in fact stereoscopic, like this one here, shot in San Francisco, that also contains an ambisonic 4-channel soundtrack, you can see here, all right? Or again, this one, which is like, you know, super high-end 360 over-under stereoscopic with ambisonics. We've got you covered in terms of how you export and easy ways to get things out of Premiere. Primarily probably to show on YouTube or Facebook. So if you go to File, Export, Media, haha, you shouldn't be recording while driving. I wasn't filming. Camera was mounted. You saw, camera was mounted there. Okay, that's fine. Use offline media graphic. I don't know what that's looking for. I was holding the phone in my hand. That's true. But it was a dead road. There was no one on there. So, you know, we're okay with that. Hold on. What is it doing here? Why is it saying that there's media offline? Let me clear this marker. Clear these in to outs. Shouldn't be anything offline now. Okay, let's go back to this. And we're going to go to H.264, our favorite. All right. And then under presets, here's where you're going to be able to see that we have a couple of different presets for monoscopic and stereoscopic. All right. So in the case of this one, it happens to be stereoscopic over under with ambisonics. So if we go ahead and choose that preset, okay, this now has all of the attributes specific to creating VR content for this type of footage, all right? And you can see here that these are suggested bit rates, but we worked real closely with YouTube and Facebook and other providers to kind of get the best out of this. Also given the frame size and the elements of this video. So you can see the bit rates here, super freaking high, right? I mean, 76 is kind of the target, 96 megabits is the maximum. And for this 1 minute and 24-second piece, we're looking at, you know, almost a gig, which again, these days a gig is nothing. But just to give you an idea on perspective, you know, we're talking 360, stereoscopic with ambisonics. But if I were going to YouTube, this is exactly what I would use, okay? Now, similarly, let's go to my Amsterdam footage here. By the way, this is a perfect example of where we would do some nice color grading right there, like right away. Just add a LUT. This is the 250D. Yeah, this is one of my favorites. You know, just to give this a little bit of dimension, a little bit of vibrance. This would be a perfect example to maybe come in and recolor that sky a little bit, or just add a little bit more saturation in that sky right there. Kind of enhance that a bit. This is kind of blown out. I don't know how much. Yeah, it's not going to see much more there, but you can see now. You can see the stitch a little bit more vibrantly, but added a little bit more color in the sky. Again, we can do additional things to this, but this one, of course, just has a stereo soundtrack. It's just regular 360. So in this case, when we go to export, for this one, we would choose VR monoscopic match source stereo audio. Okay, so that would be the preset for this one. And it's going to upload real nicely. Now, one thing I want to point out, especially if you're going to YouTube. Hey, what's up, Aunt Pruitt? One day I'll get back to using that VR camera I have on the shelf. You and me both, man. Like I said, I mean, some people love it. I think it's cool. I don't want to watch things in it, though. That's just being honest, but I'm with you. Like I keep wanting. Last night we had a monsoon, the first real monsoon here in Arizona. Very destructive. There's trees and cars all over the place. I wanted to go out and film it in 360, and I was like, the battery for the camera wasn't charged up, and I was like, I don't even know where the SD cards are, and then I don't know. It's really windy, and I don't know. And then I didn't do it, so I feel you. All right, Reverb Mike, Amsterdam, I'll have the absinthe, please. Nice. Okay. Mayan, okay, you forgive me. Thank you. Nice. Okay. So, what was I just saying? Oh, yes. So if you upload to YouTube, when you upload 360 content, and especially if it has ambisonic audio, I think with stereo it's a little faster. You will typically see, again, the video appear first. So, if any upload with YouTube, right, depending upon your follower, your subscription level, and all that stuff, your uploads get prioritized. So it takes a long while anyway just to process 360 video on YouTube, okay? So for the average user, it's going to take a minute. The video will appear right away, and then you're like, oh, cool, and you can scrub around and move around 360 space. But you may notice, if you had ambisonics, the ambisonics weren't there. It takes extra time for the ambisonic soundtrack to be present as well, okay? So just wanting to throw that out there, that if you upload to YouTube with one of these presets, I just had someone ask me this on my channel, like, hey, I uploaded 360 and I never heard the ambisonic soundtrack and Premiere is broken, whatever. No. It just takes extra time. I wish YouTube actually popped up a little thing saying, hey, for this 360 ambisonic content, it could be an hour. Like, you'll see the video first, the ambisonic, and you'll hear audio, but it won't be moving. It takes more time for ambisonic soundtracks to process. So I just want to throw that out there. If you've experienced that thus far, it's something to be aware of. All right. VR, kind of like the dragons in Game of Thrones. Will the dragons in the VR ever get here? Right. Greg Stecker, I'm in Iowa. Hurricane hit Iowa last week. I didn't have power for. Oh wow, man. Yeah, that's very intense. Hope you're doing okay there and people are safe. It was very scary last night. I mean, I'm a fan and a bit of a monsoon, a haboob aficionado, and I've photographed them many times. Snagged a few last night, but we've gone almost 100+ days of 110 Fahrenheit, and it's been about 115 for the last week or so every day. No rain, no monsoon, no nothing. I mean, we're almost in September. Normally we would have had 3 or 4 monsoons by now. So we knew it was coming. And this one last night, it just sort of rolled in out of nowhere. It didn't look like anything was going to happen. And then trees, I have several friends who are posting Instagrams, trees everywhere, cars overturned on the freeway. There's all this construction stuff all over the place. I mean, it was very destructive. We didn't have hail. Normally we get golf ball sized hail during the monsoon. There wasn't any hail, and the rain was minimal, which is a bummer because we're in the desert. And unfortunately, I was going to show you this picture. I took a picture of some of the ground in my backyard, which is deserty, and it looks like Martian terrain. That's how dry it's been. Like it's all cracked and red, and it's kind of amazing though. It's like the earth, but scary at the same time. Okay, so exporting. This is how you do it. There's presets in there. I don't think we have H.265 VR presets. Someone was asking me about that. You can make it. So you'll see here, you have this checkbox under the video tab. Video is VR. So I don't know if YouTube accepts H.265 VR. Again, depending upon where you're going, you need to check out the formats that they require. H.264 with those presets works on both Facebook and YouTube, so I can tell you that right away. But here's how you enable it for a file format that's maybe outside of those presets. Okay, there's actually a VR video checkbox right here. And I believe under the audio as well, if we go to one of the ambisonic ones, I think there's a multi-channel or an ambisonic checkbox there too. Or no, duh, of course not. It just detects it as ambisonic. But wait, I'm trying to remember what it says. Let me go into the preset here. Yes, okay, so it does in fact. So yeah, you'll see audio format will be AAC. All right, channels 4, okay? Now again, that's going to get encoded, and notice there's this checkbox here, audio is ambisonic. So if for some reason it didn't detect that and it didn't check that, but you have an ambisonic audio soundtrack with your VR video, you want to make sure you check that box, all right? Super important there. And again, for YouTube, they're already enabled in all the YouTube presets, but just be patient. If after a few hours, you know, it doesn't say it's still processing, you still don't have any ambisonic audio, hit me up on Twitter and we'll figure it out. But it takes time, all right? It takes time. I've waited as many as 2 or 3 hours sometimes for it to just pop up. So again, the video will be there, but not the ambisonic soundtrack. Okay, so for our last couple minutes here, Richard Newberry, climate change, hooray! Yeah, right. I know, sad. Let's bounce over to After Effects and talk specifically about sort of working with VR content here, and most importantly about conversions. So this is one of the things where you may have a desire to do, need to do. Again, maybe you're collaborating, maybe you're doing some work, doing some stuff, building out some video for use in a game or something like this. I had a friend who was doing something like that and specifically needed to convert this Gear 360 footage into a dome style or a cube map. I can't remember. I said, oh, yeah, you can do that in After Effects. Haven't done it in forever, but it's pretty simple. So here again is another clip of me in Amsterdam. By the way, for those of you illustrators and designers out there, this is the Hank Comics, super famous, well-known dude and location, comics and manga. Yes, indeed. I've been in there. It's a really awesome store. This is, you can get a good look at it right there. That's nice. All right. So this is, again, stitched footage that I shot quite some time ago. And if we go into effects and presets, once again, just type VR, and it'll pull up all of the VR effects that we have natively in here. Now, there's many other things you can do. We're not going to go into them today. In fact, under the composition menu, under VR, there's this create VR environment. Maybe we'll do this again if requested. Very specific stuff here if you're doing a lot of VR sort of visual effects work and tracking and masking. You would use this. I mean, you don't have to do that, but you would use that to kind of set things up in advance, extract cube map. But here I just want to show you how to do a simple conversion from one VR flavor to another. So we're going to take this VR converter effect, and you can drag it right onto our, there's only the one clip in our comp, so we can just drop it right on there, and it'll open up the effects controls for you. Okay, so for our input here, we're going to do equirectangular 2:1. And for our output, now you can see we have a whole bunch of options here. So first and foremost, cube map 4x3. So this is, again, some apps, some playback engines require a cube map output. what's really interesting is, again, if I scrub and play through this, this is all real-time dynamic, but this is not equirectangular. So like if I were to take a cube map 4x3 file and try to bring this into Premiere, I'm not going to be able to do anything with that because Premiere wants equirectangular, okay? Similarly, if we go into the sphere map, right, you've probably seen this before. So this is just, again, another flavor that takes that stitched media, but this would be going into a player that knows how to interpret this, okay? There's the fisheye full dome. This is another thing, and you can see the edging is a little bit different there. So there's absolute difference between just the standard sphere map, fisheye. Then here there's some specific ones you can see for Pano 2 VR, Gear VR, and for Facebook, Cube Map 3x2, something like that, okay? And again, as you kind of scrub through these, this just kind of shows you how it's breaking up portions of the frame, like there's above, you know, there's below, there's my hand, right? Sort of half hemisphere, side, left side hemisphere, right side hemisphere. It's really neat the way this works. Then we have an equirectangular 16x9, very similar. Okay, but you get the idea. So you could run this. This also, by the way, allows you from within this view, you'll notice, sorry, I'm having like an allergy attack as I'm saying this. You can reorient the camera view. So just as I showed you with rotate projection on standard equirectangular media, if you want to change that orientation point, so we did that with the Venice footage, if you'll recall. Where is our Venice footage? Here we go. So again, with these guys here, right, we changed the orientation so that it starts on these creepy masked, I was gonna say, what are they? Not clowns. I don't know. We're using rotate sphere. So we've changed the orientation point. So when people start playback on this, that's where it was. This is where it actually started. This is the original version, facing forward, front of the gondola. But we changed it to the side. So this is where people would start if they put on their VR goggles or whatnot. Okay. Well, you can do the same thing here by changing the orientation. Now, again, it looks a little strange in this kind of spherical way, but this is how you can make those real-time adjustments, you know, X, Y, and Z. That's kind of cool. Looks like I can fix my posture, more importantly there. All right. And then this becomes the starting point in a spherical map, right? So we just change the orientation. So we're going to export this and change the starting orientation simultaneously, okay? Which is pretty cool. All right. And that's pretty much it. Now, again, if you're doing this in After Effects, same thing. You can, of course, export to the media encoder, and then you can choose the file format that you want to go to. So, you know, depending upon where it's going, how it's being used. I wouldn't use probably the render queue for this. I would use Adobe Media Encoder. Same method as going through Premiere. That's where you'll find those presets and a lot of those other options. Just easier also to manipulate that way. But that's basically a very quick sort of look at how to work with 360 and 180 VR, using some different effects, using effects as we saw in Premiere, like the digital glitch. There's also fractal noise, glow. I mean, there's some cool, you know, like standard things that you would use on non-VR footage that have been kind of reimagined for VR here. Again, these all came from Metal, so they're really good kind of industry standards there. Adding chromatic aberration and blurs and things like that. And then, of course, all the various transitions that we have here, working with ambisonics and the like. Once you start doing it, again, the nicest thing about it is in terms of cutting the footage together, assembling the footage, there's no difference than just cutting regular footage. And if you have a setup where you've got an Oculus or an HTC Vive or some other headset that you've tied to Premiere, I mentioned, I don't have it here, so I can't show it to you. You can edit in the headset. So you can actually see a timeline in the headset. And if you've got the controllers, you can drag and scrub through. And I believe you can even pick up clips and move them around. But that's where you would enable the immersive environment. And then similarly, if you have ambisonics as part of your footage, if you click here and enable monitor ambisonics, then as you're playing back your footage, when you move your head in the headset, it will respect the ambisonic soundtrack. So therefore, you can hear everything in context, which is awesome. Okay, so those were added about a year or so after we did the initial push for VR in Premiere Pro. And that, my friends, is kind of the end of the VR demonstration today. So what I wanted to do was just see if there's any last minute questions here. Got a very nice full house today, as always. Thank you for joining. All right. Andrea Zeely, hello. Fabian, TMMCLA, Barry Moon, Marcelo Lima, Jim Sale, P. Bevan, great to see you. All right. Wanted to also remind you again, so here in the Discord, so these were, I was just going to pull up a couple of these examples real quickly before we have to go. We've got a couple more minutes here. Let me go back to my screen. So this is the Premiere Pro Discord, all right? And this is just showing you a couple of the submissions from yesterday's DCCs. There have already been 39 new messages, many of which I'm sure are submissions, since last night. And this is kind of looking at, again, here's some, this is reframing from a couple days ago. So again, it doesn't matter when you upload or import, we're checking all of this out. All right, I can see a lot of people messing about with the, this is awesome, with the stylized looks. So this one here, this was just adding some film grain. So this is just the vocals only track. Let's take a look at, see what this one looks like here. That's the full performance. So Julia Durant, JD, nice to see you there. See you, nice to use that cool overlay there, pretty sweet. Went kind of monochrome. Carrie Ann, I wanna be your man. I should be working on the move, shining up my shoes, coming up with some kind of plan. I haven't got a lot of money, honey, love is all you need to make it last. Every day I get a glimpse of your beautiful smile, so I get myself together, which can sometimes take a while. I can feel my heart pounding. All right, that was nice. Here, I'm going to show you a couple other ones here. So here's another one. This is from Hannah Young. Nice little intro there. Carrie Ann, I wanna be your man. I should be working on the move, shining up shoes, coming up with some kind of plan. I haven't got a lot of money, honey, love is all you need to make it last. Every day I get a glimpse of your beautiful smile. All right, so now here, I want to show you this one too. So this was pretty neat from Fast Eddie. Different approach here of adding a bunch of B-roll, because it's kind of hard to tell, you know, I mean, you can tell the story with 4 cameras, but admittedly the cameras, there wasn't so much going on. So this particular one was neat because he used some B-roll to sort of tell the story of the lyric, which is, as I mentioned on yesterday's DCC, actually a true story where I had seen this woman working in a college bookstore when I was still at university. And I don't know, I used to buy coffee there every day, or books, or I don't know what, I don't remember. It's a gazillion years ago, but we didn't know each other, and I just thought she was neat. So, like anyone would do, I wrote a song about it. Showed up one day with a Walkman, cassette Walkman, and said, "Hey, hi, Carrie Ann. I'm Jason. You don't know me, but I always buy stuff from you. And I think you're swell. And hey, I wrote this here. Listen to this." She puts it on. Stranger gives her like headphones, and it's this song about her. She never called me. Anyway, take a look at this one. Carrie Ann, I wanna be your man. I should be working on the move, shining up shoes, coming up with some kind of plan. I haven't got a lot of money, honey, love is all you need to make it last.
of your beautiful smile. So I get myself together, which can sometimes take a while. I can feel my heart pounding, and this I can't deny. I simply fall to pieces from the sparkle in your eye. I wanna take a hold of you and rock you in my arms. Trust me, little darling, I'll do you no harm. Carrie Ann, I wanna be your man. I should be working on the move, shining up the shoes, coming up with some kind of plan. I haven't got a lot of money, can you find it in your heart to understand?
So cool. Really neat, creative. I mean, this is the thing. I should have mentioned that yesterday. I didn't even say anything about it. So great. Really, really great stuff. So anyway, all right, my friends, that is all the time we have. So thank you so much for joining. Of course, you'll be able to watch the replays on Behance, on Creative Cloud YouTube, on my YouTube, and on Twitter Periscope. Be back next Friday with an audio masterclass. I think we'll be doing some recording. So until then, have a great rest of your morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and we'll see you again next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.